But right now, it's time to talk to Rob Nichol, who is he the Chief Executive or just the guy in charge of the Professional Rugby Players Association here in New Zealand, job that he's held for a number of years. And Rob, obviously the first question is, where does the association sit in terms of Sam Cane's comments?
We're still all very aligned on the situation. I think, the current protocol, if you like, that we have in place, everyone's pretty confident in. The key is how that protocol's applied. And there's actually a reasonable amount of flexibility in that. So that's where the answer, I think, lies moving forward and continues to lie. The starting position is if you want to play for the teams in black, you have to be contracted to play rugby in this country. And then at certain points around certain players, given different situations and circumstances, there can be exceptions to the rules. And you've seen us apply that over the years. What we need to do is be open-minded in how we continue to apply that flexibility and work closely with the players and where they're at in their stages and in their careers to make sure we get it right.
Does New Zealand Rugby need to relax this? Is there a time, though, where you won't have to play in New Zealand to get that All Black jersey, or does that have to stay stuck as a policy?
I think our position at the moment is the starting point is you need to be playing rugby in this country, because if you open the doors, then professional rugby will literally dissipate in New Zealand, and we'll end up like football and the likes, and the opportunities and the commercials overseas will mean that players will look to go into that open market. It is a key retention tool. It's a key part of a player's aspiration to be in that All Black. So to earn that jersey and to get into that team, you come through the pathway here, and you need to push out the ones that are there at the moment, to be frank. The problem that we have is actually a really good problem, and probably we've defied logic, is we've got some really experienced older players that have been playing in this country for a long time and for the All Blacks for a long time that are still up for playing for the All Blacks. And so this is really good. And the reality is, if anyone from 17, 18, 19 years of age spends 10 years or 12 years going to the same place every day, doing the same job, at some stage you need a reset. At some stage you need a break. You need something different. And you need to experience something. And we need to be probably better in that space in terms of getting on the front of the wave, working with players that have done their time, that have proven themselves in that All Black jersey, that have contributed, that are approaching that stage where they or their family, or they just want a different scene, they just need to freshen up. And we need to work with them, understand what that looks like, and see how you can help facilitate it for them, help create it for them in a way that maintains their connection back to New Zealand. And that's where the subtlety of it is, and getting, I suppose, creative and innovative around, people call them secondments or whatever you want to call them, in a way that works for the player and works for the team in black. And so, why is it that players go to 6 months in Japan? Why wouldn't you consider the opportunity to say, well, actually, for this particular player, it might be a really good idea to organise for them to go and play in the English Premiership for a year, then come back to New Zealand. What does that do? Gives them a different scene, gives them something that maybe they need from a rugby perspective to improve their game, and allows the All Blacks to have a player experience another competition in a different part of the world. So everyone wins. So why wouldn't you open your mind to those kind of little innovations and tweaks around players who have earned the right and actually need that different perspective or different experience to continue their career and continue, ideally, to contribute to the All Black jersey. So I reckon these are the areas that are key, and actually it's not about changing regulations or changing rules, because the flexibility is there. It's about doing the work to present the case that has the New Zealand Rugby Board saying, actually, this does not undermine our policy, this enhances the strength of the All Blacks, and it's the right thing to do. And that's on us to work hard at that.
Rob Nichol, boss of the Players Association, when you say being ahead of the wave, can you ever see a time where it might get like cricket, where players cherry pick and say, look, I want to play this particular tournament here, I want to play that season for this, then I'll come back and do that? Again, this is like looking into the future, and it is ever evolving.
Yeah. You get a little bit of that, but there's a beautiful balancing factor to this, mate. We're talking about the All Blacks. It's not an easy team to make. You've got to be on top of your game. It doesn't matter how good you have been, and I've been lucky enough to know some of our greatest All Blacks in history. They all know what's required to perform in that black jersey to the level that they expect, first and foremost, and they know that bouncing around and just cherry picking, first and foremost, it comes back to, am I playing in the place that I need to play to be good enough to earn and warrant wearing that jersey? That's what will go through the great players' minds first and foremost. Is this the right thing for me and my rugby? And am I worthy of coming back and wearing that jersey? They'd ask themselves that question. So, some players may be good enough to be able to, at very later stages in their career, I suppose you could, whether you say it's cherry pick or go and play in this comp and then maybe come back for a year and then go and play in another comp. But at the end of the day, there's going to be hopefully some talent here snapping at the heels. And the first and foremost, they're going to have to be good enough to get into the team. And so that's the balancing factor to that side of it. And that's kind of the balance that I really like to it, is at the end of the day, what you want is a situation that, the young players coming through the New Zealand ranks have to be better than the guys that are there now. And we've always been able to maintain that situation. We might have lost one or two players in the last 20-odd years early who were possibly better than the players that came in, but very quickly those players, you wouldn't have gone and selected a player from overseas. And it's hard to think of a World Cup where we would have selected a player from outside of New Zealand for a World Cup squad. And that probably is the measuring factor, is you want the best players playing and you want the young players having to push the established players out because they become better players. And so that's another balancing factor. If an experienced player chooses to take, a secondment with a couple of breaks over a 3-year period and they lose the edge and there's someone here that's better, then they're going to miss out anyway.
Finally, and just quickly, I know you're really busy. The statement put out by New Zealand Rugby yesterday, which wasn't attributed, I mean, get your head around that. Why wouldn't the CEO put his name to that? Because that sounds like an official policy that they are just simply explaining, hey, this is what it is.
I don't know. You might have to ask them that question. But look, it's a good discussion to be having. It's not a new one. We've been talking about it for 20-something years, and it's going to be an ongoing one. It's something we're always considering looking at. And we actually think it's a good discussion. So there's nothing wrong. But no, you'd have to ask them about that. But hopefully the listeners get something out of this. It gives them something to think about. Not necessarily a right or wrong answer, but ultimately what we want is that All Black team winning, and we want kids in this country wanting to play and aspire to that team. So, and being able to play rugby here, being able to play professional rugby in this country.